being a threat without trying to be an asshole. You know what I mean? Without having to walk around. I think this is where I'm trying to get at. I feel like there's some weird conversation in society right now. Like, how do you maintain this level of masculinity that is a protector of your family, whatever that is, your significant other, your family, your kids, whatever. But then also the other side of that, that you're still a human and there's still empathy and there's still sympathy and there's still, there's feelings involved and you can be vulnerable from that aspect, yet you can still be a threat. And it's a very interesting, I don't know what if it's just now because we have more interviews, we have more podcasts, we have more things coming out. There's more, I don't know, there's more awareness to mental health issues. Not that it's new, it's been around forever, but there's more conversation surrounding it. But for me, it's just, I feel like it's an interesting dichotomy right now between, again, that idea of like, make yourself into this threat as a man and defining what masculinity is or what man is now. All right, well, going to this one, essentially episode 3. Well, it should be the running joke that episode 1 doesn't exist. I think we've come to that conclusion with our technology. There's going to be intro, number 2, mythical number 1, and just 3 from here on out, which is great. So the idea, right, we come on here, topics, thoughts, whatever's coming to mind, and then we just kind of go from it because this is what happens. What we found of being on vacation. Together we can do anything we want to do and we'll go from there. So I have one, but I want to see if you had anything top of mind outside of the stuff we were already chatting about. Go from there.
I don't really, because I got back and I was kind of like you. I was buried, because you push stuff around on your calendar. And so I really haven't done that much thinking about it. But anyway, what's your topic?
Well, I was just in the last 12-ish hours. So, this is going to go public. It'll be on the platforms people listen to, but we've sent it out to a few friends to listen to, which they've enjoyed, which is great. And I hope more people do enjoy it. And one of my friends sent me this, I don't know, reel short or whatever on social media. I was like, I'd love to hear you guys' take on this. And so I have 2 parts to it. And I kind of started thinking about some questions that I wanted to ask you pertaining to it, because we're separated by generations. So I just wanted to see the perspective on this, So the
that's a very polite way of saying that I'm an old guy, but that's
okay. That is, you don't got to call me out on it publicly. Just understand that it was done.
Not that it isn't obvious.
It was done eloquently with words and just brush strokes.
So as a father, I'm proud of
you. The topic was as a man being a threat, and meaning the short was somebody. Let me give the kind of the overview of it. Somebody had interviewed somebody in jail that was it was a pedophile or to abduct children or whatever. And one of the conversations of the individual behind bars said, when I was basically casing or surveying children, I took a look at the father. And if it looked like somebody that was not a threat, or not tough, whatever, that was somebody that then they would target that child. And so the kind of the, whatever you want to say, motivational piece of this social media clip was, as a man, be a threat, whether that's, be in shape, train. And I just took this a little bit further in my head. I mean, with our experience, right? So years of, for you, grappling and judo and jiu-jitsu and all the stuff that we've done, plus being physically active. I was like, well, yep, I could, understand that and believe that. I mean, I think there's part of that. And then the other side of it is I've noticed quite a bit from other podcasts, social media. And again, I listen to a lot of podcasts, watching, people that you would consider a threat or a tough guy, or people who portray them, I should say too, from military people to, I was just listening to a podcast right now, like Dax Shepard, the actor, had Brad Pitt on, and I was listening to it. It was such a good interview, but had no idea that they were really close friends, because you seem like on the star meter, they're so far apart, right? You got Brad Pitt, and then obviously Dax is obviously popular too, but they're not close as far as that's concerned. But they were talking about how did they met? And they met in a AA meeting, and they were openly honest about it. But they were talking about there's a guys group, an AA meeting, getting together, and actually they were surprised about the ability to get in, be vulnerable, share feelings, and all that kind of stuff. And so I guess my roundabout way is this dichotomy socially right now, where I feel like there's some sort of redefining what technically is masculinity, right? From maybe, and this is where my question is going to come for you, but then also on the other hand of that, understanding and being open that there is some vulnerability in there. Do you know what I mean? Does this make sense? So I'm like, forever, I feel like the vulnerability part of it was never talked about. It was like, and the generational question for me would be, before we dive into that, was growing up, my thought process was, who were your idols? Who were the people that you looked up to? And then I'll give you mine. And then, like, have you seen any sort of evolution as you've gotten older and had life experience?
Hmm. Well, we always like successful people. I mean, that's always interesting. And we think we talked about it before where there's people who, when you listen to their story, it's really, they portray themselves, most of them, the real, top notch people is, I was just an average person that, was fortunate to have these opportunities, and then I was good at it and it took off, I mean? So it's kind of interesting to listen to him. It wasn't like I was born this fantastic person and my whole life was golden and all that kind of thing, because it's usually not the situation. Um, so yeah, heroes. Well, I felt like my dad was a hero because I looked up to him because he was a military guy. He's a fighter pilot, and he was a World War II and Korea and Vietnam guy. And so, but when you grow up in that world, so was everybody else's parents, you
Right.
know. So it was, it's a different. And then when you come to the civilian world, and it's quite a difference of people who have the discipline, the responsibility, the seriousness of their work, and then, so it was that transition was kind of striking as a young person, like beginning high school age, you're going, wow, some of these people are none too bright, But in terms of my dad, sports wise, Muhammad Ali was my greatest sports hero ever, I love John Wayne. I loved all the John Wayne movies, but more importantly, I love John Wayne as a person. I read everything about him. I watched every interview I could ever get about him, and there's something about it's, and they talk about their vulnerabilities and what they did wrong and in their lives and all that kind of thing. But so some of the strength that we always think, oh, tough guy, and, yeah, everybody projects an image, but they also are not so devoid of self-reflection that they can't say, oh yeah, I did this and I did that. And I'll give you a story of John Wayne, who always cracked me up because it was about drinking, right? And he was known to be a pretty good partier and stuff. Even when he was filming movies, and he would take the whole crew out and get them all messed up, and then they had. And sometimes he was producing and directing these movies and stuff, and he'd show up at 5 a.m, rattling everybody out of bed. Let's go, you know. And so he was kind of the ultimate of uh, work hard, play hard, right? And but they were talking about when he's doing one of his movies, and I might have been True Grit. I don't know. It was a scene where he was playing. He was drunk, right? And I said, "Man, how did you do?" I mean, because you got the slurring, you got the slow reaction to it, you got kind of the humor of it, and the walking and stuff. And he goes, how did you get yourself prepared for that role?" And he said, 30 years of practice. Of drinking, So it wasn't that. And I love that because he's kind of self-deprecating about it.
Right.
Um, so listen, we love people, and later on in life when you were growing up, it's Michael Jordan and it's Tiger Woods and it's all this thing. One of the things that I know I'm kind of going off, but I think it's really common for Americans is we love winners. We love winners, and especially the more they win more. Okay, but as they go along in that upward trajectory, then there's a huge part of the population that hates success, and then
Right.
they despise them for their success. And I for the life of me, my whole life, I'm going, what is it? It's one or the other. Either you don't like the person, or you don't, or you do. But why do you ride along with the success? And he's my guy, and whether it's fighters or anything else, right? And as soon as they do it, Conor McGregor's a good example. I mean, guy went from a assistant plumber on welfare to a billionaire, and that was all sheer will, skill, and hard work. So this thing might be, well, I hate that guy. I don't like him. He's a loudmouth and all that stuff. And you go, well, I don't know. I could do with somebody hating me if I could have that level of success, while I'm living on my yacht in Monaco, So, anyway, those are some of them. And they're all flawed in their own way, but I think they're really legit people when they sit down and do a little like a long form interview or stuff like that, and you go, and they talk about even being cocky and all that kind of thing, and it's kind of funny to listen to them talk about it. And there was always a sense of reality with those people.
Right.
The people who are really successful and don't have that usually fall really hard. They shoot up like a rocket. It's like the 4th of July, starburst, bang, and then they're gone, right? It's
Right.
gone. These people are generational. They're here for 10, 20 years and are remembered for generations for what they've done. So I don't know where I'm going with all that, only that I admire people who have a commitment to things, and, it's usually one thing and they're really, really good at it, and
Yeah.
then they have a sense of humor about it too,
It's that's I agree. I have a couple of things there. I mean, I agree with the you call yourself a front runner if you root for the person that's the greatest. And I'm like, you're only given a few. Like my kids, boys are old enough now. That's all the questions in the car. Who's the greatest basketball player? Who's the greatest hockey player? And of course you're going to get this generation that's going to pick whoever they're going to pick, and then I'm now in the generation that's going to pick everybody mostly from my generation, where it's like, listen, stats are the stats. Wayne Gretzky's Wayne Gretzky. Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. You can't tell me anything other other than that. But then I also had the people before, right, with similar to you, the top three. Muhammad Ali was mine too. Is read as everything I could. I came around when ESPN was coming out with ESPN Classic, so I could watch every single fight of his or the majority of them again. But I do think that what was not only his global impact and his greatness in the ring, but was, his humility from social issues, self belief. Obviously he had his own trials and tribulations in personal life and everything else. But I was thinking about there's some interview, and I'm sure you can YouTube it now, where I think he's on British TV, and the place is packed and he's doing an interview. And I think a little girl asks a question from the audience, and he's immediately so open, so playful, talking to this. I don't know if it was a boy or girl, actually, but it was a kid who had asked the question. And it was the humility with which he answered that question. He, again, here you are, the greatest fighter on planet Earth, and to this day argued to be still the greatest fighter ever, in boxing at least. And he had that balance of there's the ultimate tough guy, but you have this humility and this, vulnerability to be with a kid in public and be yourself. And I don't know where this came from or why this thought process. I just feel like all of a sudden there's some, and maybe it's just what shows up in my algorithm, or some sort of interesting balance of this conversation right now. It's like, did you not know that these people that were great were normal people, like you said, right? They're just ordinary people that, yeah, they achieved extraordinary success, but then you're in, like, even for myself, I'll listen to this podcast that you're just enamored with their own shortcomings and failures. But like I said, there's some balance to the, like, I think as a man, put the two things that I asked originally together, being a threat without trying to be an asshole. You know what I mean? Without having to walk around. I think this is where I'm trying to get at. I feel like there's some weird conversation in society right now. Like, how do you maintain this level of masculinity that is a protector of your family, whatever that is, your significant other, your family, your kids, whatever. But then also the other side of that, that you're still a human and there's still empathy and there's still sympathy and there's still, there's feelings involved and you can be vulnerable from that aspect, yet you can still be a threat. And it's a very interesting, and I don't know what, if it's just now because, we have more interviews, we have more podcasts, we have more things coming out. There's more, I don't know, there's more awareness to mental health issues. Not that it's new, it's been around forever, but there's more conversation surrounding it. But for me, it's just, I feel like it's an interesting dichotomy right now between, again, that idea of like, make yourself into this threat as a man and defining what masculinity is or what man is now, and then this other side of things where you see actually people are being way more vulnerable. So I really don't know if there's a general question there. It's just a thought process that I see it a lot more now.
Yeah, I think when you're younger, you want to be a tough guy. I was seen as a tough guy. I'm a fighter. I'm this. Don't f with me, kind of thing and stuff. As you get older, and if you've had some background, we have in physical sports and stuff, so it's not always fair because not everybody has that kind of background, but one-on-one competition and things like that. But you want to present yourself as somebody would pause before taking you on. And that doesn't mean you're some prick running around being a tough guy all the time. It's just they look at you and go, there may be something there, And I mean that there's a physical sense of that for the general public, when they're around you. But there's also intellectually, I have, for me, when people are, they're playing around the edges of creating these intellectual arguments with you, but they pause because they know I'm willing to play. Okay, I have opinions and I have strong opinions about things. I'm not mean about it, but so I'm not going to accept it because of your position. I'm not going to accept it because of how much money you make or you think you're an expert in everything that comes out of your mouth. My opinions are my opinions. I own them. Okay. And you can do what you will with them. So that's part of that. That's kind of if you will, sort of a don't try me type thing. I don't go out there to impose myself on people, but neither do I just accept everything that comes my way, So, and when people, especially people you see repeatedly and you have to work with or whatever it is, and they know now they got to come with, they better have their shit together when they're talking to you, especially if they're talking to you seriously about something. Factually, they got to know what's going on. It's not, oh, I just did, and I go, oh, okay, walk off. No. So it's kind of that. And it's funny as you get older, and what reminds me of it is the old, what's the seal movie where it had the real seals in it? It was back like in 2012 or something like that. But anyway, at the beginning, the guy talks about Tecumseh and all that, and he said, what people want to be seen, men want to be seen as dangerous. Okay, and as you get older, you have to balance the point of you're older, okay, and so I still feel like in a lot of respects I'm all that, but as my dad told me one time, and he was older when he told me this, he was probably my age when he told me that. He said, just be sure that when you come, I'm coming hard because I only have one shot at it, you know, and it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be disproportionate. It's because I don't know if I don't have the wind to keep going, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so it's kind of interesting. I think that's same mentally too with people. You just go like, and there's nothing wrong with it. You're just not trying to impose yourself on people. What you're saying is, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Okay. But if you're going to play that game, you better be prepared for the consequences of it. And that's mentally or physically. It doesn't matter. And so I think, and people, I don't care what we've gone through in the last decade of, gee, I just want to be have more feelings and stuff. Guys have always had feelings. Every guy is an emotional 12-year-old boy deep down inside. There are things that hurt our feelings, get us mad, all that stuff. We may not say it. So but we control those emotions, right? And you have to find that balance with, I don't want to overreact to it, but I don't want to succumb to somebody's abuse either.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of, it's like a lava lamp, right? Where it floats just kind of right in the spot where people will go, I'm neither too low or too high, but right in the wheelhouse there, I think I'll think about challenging you. So I think there's a lot of people running around as young men going, how do I tell people, how do I project that I'm a tough guy? All right, don't F with me, kind of thing and stuff. And that is essentially the biggest tell of somebody who
Security.
is not.
Uh-huh.
Not. Usually it's a quiet person. Uh, you know, there's some people who are physically not imposing that are just strong and tough and all those kind of things. So you learn from sports in particular never to assume anything by appearances.
Right.
I have had my ass kicked by people I thought I was going to get no problem, you know. And, because a lot of that technique, whatever, strength you didn't think they had, it doesn't matter. Or you got to lose little loosey goosey and lazy with them, and you paid the price for that. So, and I think that's the same intellectually with people, don't overestimate somebody's ability. Don't underestimate it. Just meet it right where it is. And then usually you can tell by people the points they're trying to escalate, or they're trying to suppress where they are. Oh, they don't like being on that topic. They kind of move off of it. Or they're kind of over the top on things and they go, you're not really sure of yourself if you got to act like that on this issue. So, we can see, we're all stumbling through life here, but I've been fortunate, and I grew up in a family that was kind of like that. That we were never out causing trouble, and well, maybe, but that when I wasn't what was less less intellectually with it, but and I don't think this is new to me or other people say, but my dad's thing was, hey, don't go be jumping into fights and stuff with people. But if you're in a fight, end it. And so that's kind of the way I feel like, even in like I said, in intellectual discussions and stuff. If you're coming at me and you're unarmed, but you're coming on like all that, I find great joy in politely embarrassing because you're trying to play a role. You're not engaging in a discussion. You know what I mean? So anyway, they're all there, right? Physical, mental, emotional. And that has nothing to do with being sensitive or not sensitive. Listen, man, I'll watch a YouTube thing and start crying. Tell mom about, oh my God, did you see this thing? It's unbelievable. It sucked the air right out of you. Does that mean that I'm some kind of, I mean, you're a human being, if you don't have those kind of feelings, then what kind of, were you just numb to the world? You just go charging through everybody and that's it, my way or the highway or so. Anyway, I go on too long. How about you?
No, I think, I mean, I'm here listening because I think that's where that question came up. It's just interesting to watch. And I think that, as you get older, you do go through those phases. I mean, be open and honest of like my own personal progression. You go through things, and a lot of it for anybody. You always said emotionally, guys are like a 12-year-old boy, and I think for most people, we're still trying to appease or protect that thought process that was developed when we were young, right? And actually, sometimes it's way younger than 12, right? It's some events, something, whatever you're trying to still protect or get better at or whatever, even as we get to be an adult. And so I just find it interesting now. And again, I don't know if it's with technology. I just see it popping up more and more. And I don't know if it's just like, what, like, that's why I asked generally. I think that's why I asked the question generationally. Like, right, you think about, let's just go acting in general, right? Leading men forever, just one way, right? My generation was, I'm an 80s kid, so it's gonna be Stallone, Schwarzenegger, it's gonna be all that stuff, which, then you tie it into my own experience, segment of my life a little bit where I felt like younger chubby kid and you don't feel you don't feel confident as a guy. And then you look at the next 25 years of my life, I was like, I basically tried to turn myself into my visual heroes as a kid. I mean, every cartoon, everything, that's what it was because that was the visual, right? I could go through cartoon, He-Man, it could be Thundercats, the bald gray guy was the biggest one out of all of them. Like, that's that was my projection. I mean, and I had it was the same, here's this athlete. The majority of my life was built that way. So that was I think the representation. Now in my house was different, right? Like, so there was feelings and there was emotions and there was I love yous and there was hugs. So maybe that's why the question is interesting to me because that was different for me, right? Like even with granted, I got him at the later years of his life. Again, this military vet that probably had a hard persona and had definitely a hard life doing all the things he'd done. But I got all the really good emotional part of it, right? Like we still had those good conversations, like tough conversations, the way he would talk to you. But I also got the hugs and I love yous and I got the deep conversation. I got all that stuff. So I got this balance between masculinity and, expressing your emotions and being totally fine with it. So I just feel like now it just seems interesting as it pops up all the time that now maybe it's just I was um fortunate enough to have those examples that now I see it coming up in society a lot. Like there's this big confusion about, you know, regardless of whatever your beliefs are, but this big confusion about, you know, being a man or having masculinity yet still having feelings. And I'm like, what is this new? I think maybe that's where I'm almost like, I don't think it's new. And maybe it was the betrayal from, things that we would see or whatever, but again, no real end to that conversation, but it's obviously prevalent. It's obviously something out there because it's come up multiple times for me on podcasts, specifically talking about being a man. And then in the same conversation with the same people, they're most likely successful, sharing their vulnerable stories of their own path to success, which probably has hardships and heartache and stuff like that too. So, I mean, I think that's where that came from for me. It was just I find it interesting.
Yeah, I think it kind of rolls into these other things. I've really, I've never, I never liked bullies, and it's not like I went out and I was a bully killer. I didn't go, looking at it. Only when it came to me personally. I mean, I have stepped in for other people on their behalf.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really don't like about it's not a physical thing most of the time. It's if you are Uh, if somebody finds something to pick on with you, right? Uh, Sometimes it's humorous, okay? Until they push it to being mean. Okay, so you can laugh at yourself about something that with somebody else, right?
Yep.
And but when they start going too far with it, then it's like forget it, like now, okay, game on. All right, now I have to just unleash my mean little 12-year-old boy on you because I sorry because you think I think it's okay for you to do that. And that's not right, and that's part of part of it too. You got to be able to defend yourself, um, not just physically but emotionally, intellectually, and you know there are people who start these games who in reality is you're starting something that you are unarmed in trying to do.
Mhm.
And you're going, oh, and part of me, oh, thank you, you know. So there's an opportunity sometimes to kind of straighten people out. I don't like to do it. I don't go through my life like a blind guy with a machete swinging at everybody who gets within 3 feet of me, you know. That seems like it's a hard way to go through life. I like I like getting people to talk to me about what bothers them. You know, hang on a second. Come here. Want to be part of a podcast? Be part of the podcast. There it is. Now I know you want to think
Tough guy.
I'm a tough guy.
Right.
He's a good boy. This one, and he takes no shit from anybody. Right? Okay. No. All right. So anyway, uh, when I find somebody finding humor and being mean, humor's one thing, teasing's one thing, but being mean, spirited with it, that's I absolutely go ballistic.
Yeah.
I absolutely lose my mind, and I'll do it in a very calculated way. And I've told you this for years, and I know this about myself. The more pissed I am, the calmer I get.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm settling in. I'm settling in. I'm getting my weight over my feet. This punch is going to be devastating. And that means if it's intellectually, right?
Yeah.
So I don't sit around, I'll rant, as you know, as we filmed. Uh, and part of that is just release and part of it's kind of theatrics. And you learn how to use that in a very pointed way, right?
Right.
That's a scalpel, not a grenade. You do it, yeah.
Right.
But there are people who run around and do that. That's the way their persona is every day. They're mad at people, they react to people, they blow up at people and stuff. But for me, it's meanness.
Right.
Being mean is unacceptable. Just unacceptable because then it's like, are you stepping up on me? And I mean, just even in that kind of debate type thing. And most people, like I said, are unarmed for that war. So they step right into it, then they get their ass handed to them, and then they act hurt.
For sure.
And to me, it's like, hey, too bad, Scooter. You effed around in a game you're no good at.
Yeah, I think that immediately when you say that, I mean, the phrase that was used in our household, or between you and I, are like, having conversations about situations that were either intellectual or physical. A lot of times physical, growing up talking about other people, but writing. It's the never-ending phrase. You're writing a check your ass can't cash, right? Right. When that was always the conversation when having these conversations about certain situations. Um, and I agree with you. I'm to this day, same thing. I can't stand bullies. And I think probably the underlying thing is as you get older, and probably it comes from a confidence in yourself as if you're trying to get better. Um, you don't like bullies because you just realize it's their own self confidence issues, right? It's their own issues in whatever, their own visual perception of themselves. So then they got to portray something else. They don't feel confident in a social situation. So then they say things very boisterous or mean or cutting to get a laugh or make somebody put somebody else down in order, ideally, just to make themselves feel better. Um, yeah. And so I don't like bullies either from that standpoint, and not been afraid to have those conversations because you see what that is. And I don't know. I had two things on this. It's probably number one, you're talking about using humor, not being mean, right? We all have different opinions and feelings and beliefs and whatever. And that, at the end of the day, for me, fine. The fact that it would bother you whatsoever, and you and I are close, but you can have a different opinion than me, and we can have a conversation. I don't love you less. I don't hate you. I don't not want to be around you, but you have a different opinion, whether that's politically, whether it's about a sport team, or whatever it's a situation we're going through, talking back and forth. That's the part that's almost so confusing to me that then it gets into this nastiness. I'm like, for what? Like, you're doing what feels good for you and your beliefs. Great. Fine. And that's how I am for me. And if we can find that common ground that we can differ in those things, then that's great. But it gets beyond that where people then get nasty and then they got to try and be mean. And what I was going to say is it's one of the reasons why I think I'm enamored sometimes with very successful comedians, because if you watch them, you would watch it from the outside and you think, my God, they are saying whatever, the most heinous things or whatever. At the end of the day, it's not done with malice. There's some level of truth to it, whether it's societal, talking about race or whatever, but they are able to bring humor to it because it's not mean. It just is what it is. And it's such a gift to watch these people operate because they're okay with themselves to broach the conversation to get a laugh. But we can't, for some reason, we can't operate like that in society, But I do think that they're probably the best artists there are out there because they're able to talk about any subject and we all laugh because we all know what they're talking about. But then again, it's done without any level of being mean. I mean, again, there's probably some, but it's not meant to be mean. It's just meant to be what it is. So,
Yeah, that just remind me. There's uh, his name slips my mind, but he does a lot of crowd work. He encourages heckling, right?
yeah,
British guy, and some guy yells out. He's got every thing to say is "you suck" and this and that and the other thing to him, and he goes, "Yeah, here's the deal. Um, and you can take it any way you want, but you paid $80 to buy a ticket to my show to tell me I suck. Who wins?" you know, so it's stuff like that. I mean,
right.
um, yeah, you got to be you have to have some. Well, first of all, you have to have some humility. You know, who goes through life every day going, "I'm right about everything. I'm right about everything." There's some things and you know very well. And I've had conversations about that. There's things that you do in your work or your livelihood, and how it operates and how it should operate and all that kind of stuff. So those kind of things you probably have some pretty strong opinions about, and because you've seen what works and doesn't work and all that. But um, when you see people get over their skis in an argument, and you're going, I like to be silent for a while, let it just die right there, and they'll go, just like a pause. What do you think about it? I go, not much. You know, that's your opinion of that thing, or hey, good luck with you. Good luck with it. I tend to disagree. So here's one of the things about that. If you care about the people you surround yourself with, and it doesn't have to be just work, family, it could be anybody, right? That's just you care about, and you may even have a heated debate about something, right? Generally, those heated debates make you reflect upon your own position at some point. And you may come back and go, hey, maybe I didn't react well to it. Or, I gave some thought to what you're talking and go, yeah, maybe there's something between your position and mine might be the right spot. I don't know what that is yet. But you're going to be a very lonely person if you're going to dismiss everybody that doesn't agree with you.
Right.
You're going to be very like, you can't, it's sort of like people in business say, well, fire that guy, fire that gal. You can't fire your way out of a poor operation. We got to train people. You got to teach them. Yeah, they're human. They're disorganized. They make mistakes and stuff because you're dealing with people. Okay. And no matter what they want to say about AI isn't going to do it for you, because I worked with AI years ago, and as it evolves, it can do some cool things for you. But it is just a tool created by man, right? And until you have the processing speed of a human mind with historic nuance, okay, not just repetitive historical things, but the nuance of it that can take all these factors in it. They can gather up information, but it still takes somebody to go, yeah, but that's not quite right,
Right.
That's the same thing when you're talking to people, and you should have that same approach to your own thought process, I think, because, you know, there isn't a day goes by I don't review conversations in my head because I talk to people all day long. I mean, probably 12 hours a day. And did I present that correctly, or did they seem like they were a little off with what I'm saying, or they didn't understand what I'm saying? And then you should circle back with them. Hey, I don't know. I kind of got a vibe that maybe you didn't agree with me, or maybe you didn't understand what I was saying. So I just want to make sure we're clear, about what I was intending, because sometimes you kind of get a vibe somebody was a little miffed at what you said, and it wasn't your intention to make them mad, you know. So, and that's part of okay. So you go into the macho, this and that, and all that. Well, that's the nuance to it. You're man enough to say maybe I wasn't right, or I didn't present it right, or maybe I didn't understand their argument fully. And on reflection, you go, oh, you know what? When I thought about it, I'm such an idiot. Now I understand what you were saying, you know? And it's so much healthier for you to go back to somebody and say that to them. First of all, you have just uh, engendered a friend, okay, and showed that you are able to have reflection on things and adjust your thinking. I mean, otherwise, when I got up this morning, I am a complete human being and I will not evolve from to this point forward. I don't need to. Everything I say is golden. Everybody should listen to me, and life's good, But what a brutal existence that is, and you will be alone.
Right. I don't, and I, the conversation can obviously go on forever. It's just, uh, I'm like trying to, I don't have an answer, right? Which spawns the conversation on.
I'm disappointed as a
Yeah.
father. I'm
At
disappointed
this
in you.
point, I don't have the
I
answer.
really am. So I want you to do some homework, and then next time we do this, come back with the answer, please.
But what started that conversation for what I've seen to this conversation now goes back to past things that I've said, and then adding on to what we've kind of discussed. I'm like, and maybe the end of it is like, number one, being firm in your own convictions and your beliefs, and not closed off to other opinions of it, but also firm in who you are, what you love to have around you in life, and be solid. Be solid there. And then in what would probably make you the best threat physically and emotionally, and we talked about this before, is number one, you actually have to work on yourself on both aspects, right? Because then I think what it does is it gives you confidence in those convictions. And again, not to be an asshole, but to stand firm, and stand firm and plant your flag in things that you want to. But then the other side of that coin, when we were talking about the vulnerability of it, is the human side of things. that it's not a brick wall, right? That it's one that can evolve and it can grow and it can get better. So I'm good here because I'm continually evolving and growing at this present moment, but it's not the end, right? Like you said, not everything's gold when I woke up. I got some good stuff. I got some stuff I'm working on. I'm open to working on it. I understand it, and I think that that's the conversation. And again, I keep using the word interesting because I was just like, you're just trying to be the best version you can be,
Right. And
and then do that to support yourself and your family and those around you the best you can, protect them as you can, and then continue to grow. Um,
I think on the physical, trying to be, sometimes it's sort of like having goals when you work out and stuff. And we talked about this before, and you set a goal and you didn't quite get there and that kind of thing. It's much like that with your own personal development about who you are. So you can't have a position or a manner of communicating that doesn't evolve because it's not going to work every time and in every situation, right? So, and then on the physical side, I guess the way I would think about it now, having crossed the line to the dark side, age wise, all I want to do is be more physically fit than the average person my age. I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be some world class thing. But if somebody looked at me and they said, "Well, what's your age?" Well, that makes me feel good about myself, and that's how you
right,
project yourself and that. So you don't have to be, and that's tough when you're younger because you want to be the world class, thing, and it's so rare, you know. You're putting a goal out there, while admirable, is unattainable for most people. So to me, if you're 33 years old, try to be in better shape than the average 33-year-old. And people go, God, I would have thought you were in your mid 20s the way you look, whatever. I mean, project the thing you want to project, and it's not, there's going to be a lot of things that come at you in life and you have no control on it. It's only how you react to them, and so strength is internal. Not, you can project strength externally, but strength is internal to how you're dealing with the things that are going on in your life. And you don't have to ignore them. You don't have to bury them. You don't have to act like, oh, everything's great. It's a Facebook life I'm leading here, all the time, because we know that's not true, you know,
right.
and so uh, and going to other people and saying, man, I am really messed up on this one issue. It's really kind of dragging me down, and here's why, and whatever. Could be anything. Be a business approach. It could be anything. Could be a personal relationship. It doesn't matter. And you're talking to people about it. Once you start talking to people about it, then you are taking it to a different level of uh, thought process and analysis and stuff. Not just sitting there going stewing in it.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit over here pissed. My
Well,
approach doesn't work. I don't want anybody to know it's not going well for me, and whatever.
which is common. I
Yeah,
think that's the part,
I
right?
think we all do it. We all do it. But the thing is, excuse me, you have to catch yourself when you slide into that. I think there's a level of depression with every person. You have moments. I don't care who you are. You have down moments. Whether it's in a day or a week, or it's been a tough month, or maybe you have things going on, around you. Um, but you have to always be like, you're going to get through this, but you have to have some self-confidence that uh, it's going to sting for a while here, but, we keep going, because if you go the other way, what's your approach to it? You just give into, Okay, that sucked, and now because that sucked, everything else is going to suck. And okay, well, have a nice day. you know, See, you can tell when people do that. You've had people talk to you like that, right? They talk to you, and you go, um, you simply can't get them out of the. You can't get them out of the nosedive.
Right.
You know, you keep going. You go, man. Is there nothing in your life going good? Nothing you just for a moment you could say was okay. And it, but that's a poor me. That's a poor me. They want everybody to go, yeah, you got it rough. You got it rough.
Victim mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that I don't know where, that was it was very interesting. It was the last 12 hours. I just had seen a couple of things and very snippets come up, and I just think it's a good conversation. It's obviously relevant right now, I think. And maybe I find it, important to discuss because that's how I feel is it's just a constant evolution of yourself, which is exciting, always trying to progress to be better. And if you don't, then all those other things fall by the wayside. I think that it has to be an evolution, and then part of that evolution is it's not always going to be easy, and it's going to be you have to be vulnerable to know that that's the only way things are going to evolve, right? You have to break it down.
Well, and I think really the basics are we like to be liked and loved, and we like to love and like. Okay, so that's the deal.
Yeah.
And it's the yin and yang. It's the back and forth. It's the thing that makes all the stuff that goes along in your life. If you have some of this going on, makes that bearable. Okay, and also gives you a sense of okay. Uh, I need to stop thinking about this. So I'm just grinding. I'm just auguring in on this one issue. And you don't do your best thinking when you do that. You just, okay, I got it. Yeah. Yeah, Matt, you're pissed about that thing or whatever it is. Uh, so what are you going to do about it? And you have to just kind of set it aside. It's almost like a book. Put a bookmark in that, set it aside for a while because the energy that you're applying to it isn't going to be solution driven. And sometimes you find out the things that you've really been grinding on weren't worth the time.
Right.
If you just give it a beat, 2 days from now you'll go, I don't know what I was thinking, why I was getting all excited about that deal, or why I spent as much energy as I did about it. And then it becomes a different discussion with yourself. It's like, I want to make sure that I don't give in to those kind of feelings and waste my energy in that manner again. So now you're starting to be more self-aware about situations and how you react to the situation and why do you go, what's your default mode, right? Is it combative? Is it whatever, it is, or is it, do I retreat and be reclusive because I'm pissed and kind of hurt my feelings or whatever it is? And, there's a little of all of it in there, but you just have to, it's a self-awareness thing. It's not we can't run around going, "Oh, okay, well, I solved that problem. What else do you have?" Okay. That's not the way life is. It just keeps coming at us off of the conveyor belt. We've got shit in our arms. I'm trying to do this thing. And, some days good enough is good enough, and you just set that all aside, go get some deep, turn on something on Netflix. Oh my God. You know.
I think as we wrap it up, as we were talking about I had this visual, and it's something you've always said to me too. We're talking about like let's say guys from this aspect, right? Uh the pit bull on the chain. It's one of my favorite visuals for this, right? So you always think about like, oh, I'm not gonna go pet that pit bull. It looks big, mean, and scary. But at the end of the day, if you got close enough, it just wants to roll over and have you scratch its belly,
Right.
you know? And I think that that's always been the visual for me, right? Like you perceive that whatever way you want to, physically, intellectually, but at the end of the day, You just want to have your belly scratched, you, you know. And I think that that's probably the best visual I can ever think of to like wrap this all together. Is that always made the most sense to me, as even as a person.
Yeah. So and then just taking that analogy further, think about the dog. There are dogs, they're going to break that chain. They want to break that chain. They're killers, right? And there are people like that too. They're just evil, you know. But most people are more on that other side. And so when you're talking about, when you get to know them, uh, they roll over and rub your belly, rub their belly. Most people are tender, caring people. Most people are, you know. We know the exceptions to those things. You got to be hyper vigilant about those people because they can be some of the most evil people are very, very clever, So we've all been sucked into, relationships or conversations with people. And then later on you go, ooh, I don't think do fat cat anymore. But uh, when people look, I've had people tell me, oh, you guys got kind of this rough exterior and stuff, but you're really a teddy bear. And I go, yeah, but I'm only gonna let some people know that. I'm not gonna let everybody know that, right? So I mean, I think that's what you're saying. It's the same. That part of you is shown to people who deserve to be shown it. Yeah.
Yeah, earn it. Well, that's it.
All right. Well, I feel much better. I feel so much more educated, and let's face it, I'm more self-actualized since we had this discussion.
Well, if you weren't a co-host, I'd, pay you some residual for that nice plug at the end, but that's great. But, hey, we'll stay tuned till the next one where unbeknownst to us, we'll probably show up with the exact same t-shirt on and either both not have a hat on or both have a hat on, without even trying. So,
Okay, so without naming names, do we have some guests coming?
I have to touch base with our first one that we want on there. I haven't heard back, but that would be a good one, especially pertaining to this conversation, because I think that that's a good piggyback off of this, as far as like being a threat, a physical threat, yet being what I would say a teddy bear. So that I would look forward to having that one on here. Actually, a couple of them. I think I've actually any most of the guys I think we would bring on would probably fall into that category. Now that I think about it, so we'll touch base, and then hopefully on our next one, it's not just you and I chatting. We'll have one more person to uh, bring into the fold here on Pops with Pops, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good.
All right, love you.
Love you. Talk to you later.
Back there. Bye.
Peace.